beam and I shine on the deck in the TV screen. Ride with a new chick, she like cola. Next to the PlayStation controller is a full clip in my pistola. Send a jacker into a coma. Girl, you ain't on crazy like Crazy Bone, just tryna bone, ain't tryna have no babies. Ride clean as hell, so I pull in ladies. Laws on patrol and you know they hate me. Music turned all the way up into the maximum. I can speak this, try to jack for some, but we packing something that we have for we have it locked up in the maximum security cell. I'm gripping old, music loud and I'm tipping slow. Twin steady twisting like hit this dough. Please pull up right behind and it's in his throat. The windows down, gotta stop pollution. City changed like who is that producing? That's the plan skills when we out and cruising. Got warrants in every city except Houston, but I still ain't losing. They see me rolling, they hating, patrolling and trying to catch me riding dirty. 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 My music so loud, I'm swinging. They hoping that they gon' catch me riding dirty. Trying to 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 catch me riding dirty.
I've been drinking and smoking, holy, cause I really can't focus. I got to get it home for the popo scope. This big old scourge just swerving. All up in the curb and been sipping on the hit and singing the gin again and sin again. We in the wind, doing 100 while I puff on the blunt. I roll another one up, we living like Wingwood. I got a blunt up in my right hand, 40 ounce in my left, freezing mouth. Rolling up the tree, green leaves and all. Coming pretty deep, me and my dogs, yo. Like a nigga the back streets. Wondered about the 6 pounds and I got hit. Glock shots to the block, we creak. Pop, whole cops don't see me. On a low key, with no regard for the law. We dodge them like them all. But I won't get caught up and brought up on charges for none of y'all. Keep a gun and car in a bloody spot. Well, up if you want, poppin' dog. Ready or not, we bust shots off in the air. Crazy Bone and Chameleon.
They see me rolling, they hating, patrolling and trying to catch me riding dirty. 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 My music so loud, I'm swinging. They hoping that they gon' catch me riding dirty. Trying to 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 catch me riding dirty. Know what you thinking, so I try to let you go. Turn on my blinker light and then I swing it slow. Step for show. They think they know that they catching me with plenty of the drink and drove. So they get behind me, trying to take my tags. Look at my rear view when they smiling. Thinking they'll catch me in the wrong and keep trying. Steady denying that it's racial profiling. Houston, Texas, you can check my tags. Pull me over, try to check my slab. Glove compartment, gotta get my cash. Cause the crooked cops who try to come up fast. And being the baller that I am, I talk to them, giving a damn about I'm not feeling my attitude. When they realize I ain't even riding dirty, but you'll be leaving with it even matter mood. I'ma laugh at you and then I have to cruise. Jamming #2 on some more DJ screw. You can't arrest me, plus you can't sue. This is the message to the law, tell them we hate you. We tough, so tell them that they should've known. Tipping down, I'm sitting crooked on my chrome. Booking my phone, finding a chick I wanna bone. Like they couldn't stop me, I'm about to pull up at your home zone. They see me rolling, they hating, patrolling and trying to catch me riding dirty. 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 My music so loud, I'm swinging. They hoping that they gon' catch me riding dirty. Trying to 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 catch me riding dirty. They see me rolling, they hating, patrolling and trying to catch me riding dirty. 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 My music so loud, I'm swinging. They hoping that they gon' catch me riding dirty. Trying to 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 catch me riding dirty. Damn, my arm stuck in the wheel. Damn, man, I can't feel my nerves. Try to wreck my slab, man, my bad. Man, I was trying to take that skipper ball with my picture phone in my hand, sitting off the wheel. Alright, man. I can't get the door open, man. Hell, now somebody about to do insurance, man. Doctor, I need another prescription. Damn, I done spilled my drink.
It's quiet in the room, flowers all around. I hate to say it's you, have to put you in the ground. Your mama's holding tight to your daddy's hand. It's hard to say goodbye to you, my old friend. I hear you say, are you gonna wake up before you close your eyes? Are you gonna Before you close your eyes, are you gonna hold the ones you love so tight? We're gonna die, gonna die. Still what makes you feel alive. We're running out of time, running out of time. Are you gonna wake up before you close your eyes? Are you gonna hold the ones you love so tight? We're gonna die, gonna die. Still it makes you feel alive. We're running out of time, running out of time.
Yeah, this one right here goes out to all the babies, mamas, 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 baby mamas, mamas. Yeah, go like this. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I am for real. Never meant to make your daughter cry. I apologize a trillion times. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I am for real. Never meant to make your daughter cry. I apologize a trillion times.
My baby is drama, mama, don't like me. She doing things like having the boys come from her neighborhood to the studio trying to fight me. She need to get a piece of American pie and take her bite out. That's my house. I disconnect the cable and turn the lights out. And let her know her grandchild is a baby and not a paycheck. Private school, daycare, shit, medical bills, I pay that. I love your mom and everything. See, I ain't the only one who lay down. She wanna rip you up, start a custody war. My lawyer, stay down. She never got a chance to hear my side of the story. We was divided. She had fish fries and cookouts for a child birthday. I ain't invited, despite it. I show her the utmost respect when I fall through. All you would defend that lady when I call you.
I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I am for real. Never meant to make your daughter cry. I apologize a trillion times. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I am for real. Never meant to make your daughter cry. I apologize a trillion times. Me and your daughter got a special thing going on. You say it's puppy love. We say it's full grown. Hope that we feel this way forever. You can plan a pretty picnic, but you can't predict the weather. This Jackson times out of 9. Now if I'm lying, fine. The quickest muzzle, throw it on my mouth and I'll decline. King meets queen, then the puppy love thing. Together dream about that crib with the good year swing. On the oak tree, I hope we feel like this forever. Forever, forever, ever, forever, ever. Forever never seems that long until you're grown. And notice that the day-by-day ruler can't be too wrong. Miss Jackson, my intentions were good. I wish I could become a magician to abracadabra all the sadder. Thoughts of me, thoughts of she, thoughts of he. Asking what happened to the feeling that her and me had. I pray so much about it, need some knee pads. It happened for a reason, one can't be mad. So know this, know that everything's cool. And yes, I will be present on the first day of school and graduation. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I am for real. Never meant to make your daughter cry. I apologize a trillion times. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I am for real. Never meant to make your daughter cry. I apologize a trillion times.
Look at the way he treats me. She look at the way you treat me. See your little nose ass homegirl, you got your ass in up the creek, G. Without a pad on, you left straddling right this thing on out. And the union girl ain't speaking no more, cause my dick all in, I'm out. I'm talking about jealousy, infidelity, can be cheating, beating, and the N to the G, they be the same thing. So who you placing the blame on? You keep on singing that same song, let bygones be bygones, you can go and get the hell on you and your mom.
I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I am for real. Never meant to make your daughter cry. I apologize a trillion times. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I am for real. Never meant to make your daughter cry. I apologize a trillion times. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I am for real.
like sour milk all on the floor. It's your fault you didn't shut the refrigerator. Maybe that's the reason I've been acting so cold. If I could escape and recreate a place that's my own world, and I could be your favorite girl forever, perfectly together. And tell me, boy, now wouldn't that be sweet? If I could be sweet. I know I've been a real bad girl. I didn't mean for you to get hurt. We can make it better. And tell me, boy, now wouldn't that be sweet?
I wanna get away to our sweet sex. I wanna get away.
You held me down. I'm at my lowest boiling point. Come help me out. I need to get me out of this joint. Come on, let's bounce. Counting on you to turn me around. Instead of clowning around, let's look for some common ground. So baby, time's getting a little crazy. I've been getting a little lazy, waiting you to come save me. I can see that you're angry by the way that you treat me. Hopefully you don't leave me. Wanna take you with me. If I could escape and recreate a place that's my own world, and I could be your favorite girl forever, perfectly together. And tell me, boy, now wouldn't that be sweet? If I could be sweet. I know I've been a real bad girl. I didn't mean for you to get hurt. We can make it better. And tell me, boy, now wouldn't that be sweet? If I could escape, if I could escape, 'cause I've been acting like someone
folks. Come on in and grab a seat if you would. If you didn't already, grab a fan from out front. Come on in. On behalf of the family, thank you for being here to celebrate the life of Darrin Kenneth Prock. My name is Billy Spalding. I'm a pastor here in town and am honored to be a part of this celebration of Darrin's life. I said this to a few of you, but you know, most of us have pulled into these parking lots and walked into this building for a lot of different reasons. And it's just hard to believe that this is the reason we're in this building today, isn't it? Darrin's obituary reads, Darrin Kenneth Prock. He was born February 12th, 1975. And passed June 14th, 2025. It's with heavy hearts we share the passing of Darrin Kenneth Prock, a cherished member of the Payson community, born in Chandler, Arizona, and raised in Payson. Darrin was an avid runner and a passionate wrestling assistant coach, embodying a lifelong commitment to fitness, sports, and mentorship. Darrin dedicated over 27 years to Arizona Public Service, APS, earning respect for his heartfelt commitment to serving his community. His impact extended beyond his career, as he was an active member of the Rim Runners Group, recently marking his 50th birthday with an extraordinary 50-mile race, a true reflection of his determination and love for running. A wrestling state champion at Payson High School, Darrin remained deeply connected to the sport by assisting and coaching future Longhorn wrestlers, including his son, Garrett. His support for all Longhorn athletics extended beyond wrestling. He was a devoted fan and supporter of all PHS athletics, especially encouraging his daughter, Logan, and her softball team. Darrin's legacy lives on through his beloved children, Logan, or Lolo, and Garrett G. Prock, and their mother, Angela Dyer Prock. He's also survived by his mother, Kenny Grubbs Prock, his father, Danny Prock, his sister, Autumn Prock McDonald, his brother, Derek Pck, and his girlfriend, Jen O'Neill, his Jenny girl. His love for family was the cornerstone of his life, and he cherished every moment spent guiding and supporting his children. Darrin's absence leaves an immense void, but his spirit, love, and dedication will forever remain in the hearts of those he touched. His memory will live on through the lives he impacted. I didn't know Darrin well personally. We moved here several years ago, and I got to know he and his family then. Spent some time with Derek at the fence, at PHS sporting events, and mingling at Christmas parties and that sort of thing. But I will say, I always looked forward to getting some time with Darrin. Just a quirky guy and just a fun person to be around. Never boring, for sure. Always interesting. Logan and Garrett, our hearts break for you guys. and for the rest of your family. I write out all my sermons on my computer, and I save them with a heading in case I need to look back at them at some point in the future. And writing out Darrin Prock's memorial was just a surreal experience. It certainly seemed wrong. We aren't built to process or understand death. And no matter how prepared we think we are for it, we truly never are. Why is that? Given the fact that it is an inevitable part of the human experience, why are we unprepared for it, knowing that all of us will experience it? I think the answer to that is that we were never meant to experience it. The Lord's plan and his desire was that we would live forever in relationship with him. But in order that we might have choice, to choose to walk with him or not, he gave us free will. He warned us that to choose our own way, to go our own way, would result in loss, result in death. But he allows us to make our choices. When the best of us, Adam and Eve, chose their own way, death entered the human experience, and the paradise that God created for us was lost. Every generation since has had to deal with the shock and trauma of losing our loved ones. But I want you to know that God hates death. That's clear in the word that he's preserved for us. He hates death, and his heart breaks for us when we experience it. His word tells us that he is near to those who are brokenhearted. He wants to walk with you in this time. Through the sadness that you experience now, the range of emotions that you will experience in the coming months and even years, he wants to be there with you. There's no guidebook for grief. There's no right or wrong way necessarily to grieve. Often in the moments that we expect, that we think that we will experience grief, the moments we expect that we will weep and break into tears, there's nothing. And then so often in the moments that we never expect, it just hits us. And that's okay. But I encourage you to allow yourself to grieve. It's a part of the healing process. Allow yourself to experience the sorrow, the anger, the confusion, the difficulty. The unanswered questions of why. Why? Why him? Why now? Why in this way? The confusion that results to the unanswered questions. If we're not careful, if we're not aware, can cause us to lose our grip on the truths that we've held up to this point. A good piece of advice for times like these is don't throw out what you do know for what you don't know. We don't know why. We don't know why in this way. We don't know why at this point. But let's not let go of the things that we do know. Those things that have motivated you and propelled you forward up to this point. Those things that Darrin would cheer you on to continue doing and being motivated by. Don't let go of those things because there are unanswered questions, because there's confusion, because there's anger or sadness. And I would add, as a Christian, don't let go of the Lord. We don't understand why. We don't understand how. There are all of those questions, but don't let go of the things you do know. And I hope that one of the things you do know is that he loves you so much that he was willing to send his son to die. He loves you. Many of you know that the shortest verse in the Bible is Jesus wept. But do you know when he wept? Jesus wept at an odd moment. He wept at the funeral of his friend Lazarus. That's not odd. But the odd part is that Jesus knew he was about to raise Lazarus from the dead. And yet, he wept. Why? I believe it's because he was hurting for those who were hurting. He saw Lazarus' sisters, he saw Lazarus' friends, he saw the pain and the anguish of death, and Jesus wept. And that word wept doesn't just mean that he shed a tear or two. It means that Jesus wept. He convulsed. Why? Because he loves you. Because he cares for you. Because he's with you in this. And in the season ahead, you're going to need something solid to stand on. And I encourage you that he wants to be that rock for you, that you can count on and trust in. Hebrews chapter 6, verse 19 says, "This hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast." An anchor is for holding fast to a position, for maintaining stability when your stability is threatened. And as you grieve, you might feel like a ship in the middle of the ocean, tossed and being thrown in every direction. And the Lord wants to be that grounding force for you. The rest of that verse says, take hope. The hope we have in Jesus is an anchor for our soul, both sure and steadfast. I'm not going to talk long, so don't worry. But I do want to remind us to acknowledge that most of us assume we're going to live to be a ripe old age, don't we? Most of us. But none of us really knows. We don't know how many days we have on this earth. Darrin's a year older than I am. A lot healthier than I am. And he's gone. We didn't expect to lose him at this point in time. But he did live a full life, didn't he? As you can see in the photographs, as you have the stories that you can share with one another. We were just talking about some this morning, my wife and I. He lived a full life, fuller in 50 years than most probably live in a full lifetime. He experienced incredible love. He cherished his children. He pushed life to the limits. He did a lot. The scriptures tell us that whether we pass in our infancy or we live on to be 100 years old, this life, in light of eternity, is a vapor. Here today and gone tomorrow. But we all have a soul that lives on for eternity. This life is not the whole of our experience. It's just the beginning in many ways. One of my favorite passages in the scriptures say, mortality is swallowed up by life. What does that mean? Well, this is mortality. Our experience right now, this is mortality. We call this life. But the scriptures say that mortality is swallowed up by life, meaning that our existence beyond this is more life than this is. Our existence beyond this physical life, is more life. Much more. We so often get caught up in the here and now, focused only on physical, material things, and yet the reality is we should probably be giving a little bit more attention to the afterlife. Darrin's no longer with us, but he has not ceased to exist. I believe that though death was not the Lord's intention for us, he uses the loss of our loved ones to help us, cause us to take stock of our lives, reorder our priorities if need be, to ask ourselves, am I on the right trajectory, the trajectory that I need to be on? Because the reality is, we may not have a whole lot more time. We just don't know. I know Darrin's passing has caused you to see more clearly the things that really matter. I'll leave you with this. Revelation chapter 22 says, the Spirit and the bride is referring to those who have passed on in faith. The Spirit and the bride say, come. And let him who hears say, come. And let him who thirsts come. Whoever desires, let him take the water of life freely. I'm confident, if he could, Darrin would say to all of us here today, come on, run to Jesus. He's everything you desire. At this time, I'm going to call up Mr. Dennis Perch, Darrin's coach and friend. Come on up, Dennis. For those who may share a little later on, adjust the microphone, speak into it as best you can. There's also a microphone down here that will be opened up. Just make sure you're speaking into it, or we won't be able to hear what you're saying, especially with the fans going, okay?
I look at the crowd and recognize the impact that Darrin Prock had on your lives. And it's phenomenal. It's humbling. Thank you for being here. I'm humbled and honored to share and reminisce a little bit about the impact of Darrin on high school wrestling and being a member of the Payson High School first cross-country team at PHS. I want to thank Kenny and Danny for allowing me to work with your son for 4 years in high school wrestling, and at the same time, the impact of moms and dads in support was second to none. Again, I want to thank you both. And of course, to Autumn and Derek, I'm sorry for your loss of a dear brother. And of course, my sympathy goes to the rest of the family and all of you friends that are here today. You know, I had the opportunity to get to know Darrin as a freshman at Payson High School, and he began an outstanding career in high school wrestling. I'm going to kind of focus on wrestling a little bit. Darrin, let me back up. Coaches teach technique and strategies, whether it's football or all the sports. And in wrestling, it's basically the same. I can teach technique and strategies, but here's what I can't teach. I recognize that Darrin had things that coaches could never teach. He had DNA, gene pool, whatever you want to say, that allowed him to do things with his body in regards to quickness, explosiveness, and the ability to jump, that I just kind of scratched my head and said, man, I'll tell you what, you know, I was a high school wrestler and a collegiate wrestler, and on my best day, I couldn't vertically jump 6 or 8 inches, and I watched Darrin Prock jump 4 foot vertical without taking a step. And I just went, whoa. He had that ability and had that particular gift, and it certainly showed in wrestling. And again, I want to thank Danny and Kenny for that. My goodness gracious. He could do things that most athletes just dream of. I made contact with the coaching staff a couple of days ago when the family asked me to spend a few moments. And I got Roy Sandoval, and Roy wanted to be here, but he's, as we speak, in Montana with his family. And I said, Roy, what do you remember about Darrin? And he said that he was the most respectful athlete ever on the mat and in the classroom, which is essential. And then I mentioned, well, how did he compete? And he said he had the biggest heart ever for competition. He loved to compete. And that showed throughout Darrin's life. And then I called Don Heiser, and Don said he thrived on competition. All business on the mat and fun-loving and caring with his teammates. There are a lot of lighter moments in regards to making trips with Darrin Prock, being in the van or on the airplane, or just lots of things that happen. But when it was time to compete, all business. And when it was all done, then it was time to enjoy your friends and your family and whatever else that went with it. Fun-loving and very caring. In the off-season, we had opportunities to travel the West, and trips were always eventful. And yes, sometimes a prank or two by Darrin would make everybody laugh, including the coaches who really wanted to be serious, but man, we just cracked up. I mean, these were some of the funniest things we'd ever done, and I'm going to share a couple of those in just a moment. But here's the thing. When it was time to compete, when he wrestled against the best in the country, it was all business, and it was time to compete. I remember we made many trips to California during the wrestling season. And each year that was kind of like the highlight of the first half of the wrestling season. And it was all business on the mat. And when the team did well, they went to Disneyland. And I'd like to share that I think that we invented that quote before it was made famous on the Super Bowl. I can remember I'd tell the kids, I'd say, hey guys, we're going to go wrestle first, and we're going to wrestle our hearts out and do the best we can, and Darrin did. And I said, then we go to Disneyland. And we had a lot of fun, and Darrin was right in the midst of all the fun, I might add. I'm going to digress now to a bit of humor. In the time, when I said we did a prank or two, I watched Darrin the first time in California. He just won the gold medal, and you know, come on, turn that. At the end of a tournament, there is the award stand. Are you with me on that? There's a 4th place over here, and there's a 3rd place over here, and there's a 2nd place here, and there's a championship. And I can remember the first time I saw him wear his fuzzy bear slippers. And I'm going, what is this? And he had these, they looked like bear hide slippers. And I don't know where he got them or how he got them, but that kind of became his namesake for his attire after he won a gold medal. And so he walked up in these great big old slippers, and everybody's going, what is he doing? What is he doing? And then he walks to the award stand. Now this is the crazy part. I said he was athletic, and he had talents that most of us would only dream about. I watched him go from a standstill step with not taking a step, and he was here, and then he jumped about that high and was on the first place stand. And I said, my goodness gracious. Not only was he a great wrestler, but he brought the house down when he did that with those slippers. And that became who he was when he won a gold medal. And he won many gold medals in wrestling. There was another time, this was equally as funny. We were in LAX airport. You know, when you travel with an athletic team, you kind of want everybody to be within parameters. You want them to wear a tie. You know, I said, yeah, you got to wear a tie. And you got to look nice when you're on the airplane. And so we're waiting at LAX, and we're about an hour and a half early. And Darrin does something that got everybody's attention in the airport at that area where we were going to board that plane. He pulled out, and I didn't know what he was doing. I had no idea. I'm just kind of minding my own business and saying, I hope everybody does well. I mean, meaning everybody is within their best behavior. And so here's what he did. He took a $1 bill, and it was on a string. Out there. And then he goes back and sits down, and then we watch, or he watched, who was going to pick up the buck. And that's when $1 was worth $1. Okay, that's probably 30 years ago. And we had so much fun, and I'm going, man, I'm going to let this happen. We had so much fun, and somebody would bend over to pick up that $1, and all of a sudden it would fly across the aisle. And it was funny, and it was funny until I saw a guy that was bigger than Danny Prock. And this guy looked like he played offensive lineman for any of the major NFL teams, and I went, oh boy, oh boy. And I thought, he was the bait. And so that $1 was out there, and Darrin did it. And the guy, great big old brute, I'm telling you. He was a big old brute, and he went over to pick up the buck, and it was gone. And he looked around, and there we are looking, and there's Darrin grinning from ear to ear. And I'm thinking, something bad's going to happen here. And the guy smiled and said, you got me. That was it. But we had lots of fun. But again, I want to go back to when it was time to compete, he competed. And I want to say it was real important. As a senior, he was one of the co-captains of the squad, and that particular squad won a state championship. And his leadership in the practice room was just hard to imagine. I mean, the coaching staff, we bordered on administering cruel and unusual punishment. That's the closest thing to our workouts I can imagine. And we worked, and Darrin, as one of the leaders, and there were other seniors, but they, as a group, they worked harder than anybody else, I'm going to say in the state of Arizona, that I'd ever heard of, seen, or whatever. And Darrin was right in the crux of that. And I can remember one day in the practice room, and it is just pure torture. And these guys are responding, and I look to Darrin, and he's there just working. And he turns around and looks at me and grins. And this is after workout, and the grin was, you can't break me and give me some more. That was Derek Pck. And that's why he was successful. and he seized the moment, and he just could not be broken. That's the leadership he exhibited in the wrestling room, and I did mention Darrin was a member of the first cross-country team at Payson High School. I didn't know that until Clifford told me, and I thought that was pretty cool because, you know, wrestling after 3 or 4 years in a high school event, most people are done. You know, you move on in life. But with running and cross-country, it's a lifelong trade. I mean, you can do it forever. You get up in the morning, you jog or do whatever, and you find folks that like to work with you, as you can see on some of the slides. Darrin was a runner. I want you to ponder this thought. 50 years old, 50 miles. 50 years old, I could only dream of going 50 miles. That's what he did. And that was the challenge. He just enjoyed that competition. And this was not competition with someone else. It was competition with himself, saying, hey, can I do this? And that's how he lived his life. He enjoyed that competitive spirit and the camaraderie and lifelong friends. And some of those runners are right here today. They enjoyed that competition. I'm not much at social media or even the internet for that matter. I'm a bona fide Luddite. A Luddite is somebody that doesn't believe in all that stuff, okay? So, but I do know that in social media, he and all of his friends, guys and gals, they compete. They compete. Well, I just ran this race, or I ran this 10 miles, and then somebody tries to outdo the time. They go find the spot. And so here they were, and he was a part of that. He loved to run, and he loved to run in the wilderness. After high school, again, we saw the Forest Service as a member of the Hot Shot crew and Helitack crew. We made lifelong friends. And you know what? All those guys and gals exemplify who Darrin was. You know, kind of living on the edge of competition, living on the edge, the thrill of activities, the thrill of putting out a fire in this case. Darrin gave back to Payson High School and Payson High School wrestling through time and energy and being a coach and helping his own son, Garrett, develop his skills in wrestling. His love of watching young athletes develop was one of his real thrills in life, giving back. And that's essential, I think, for all of us here. Darrin is a great reminder that we can give back and we can support and we can help the next generation and the next generation. Darrin was a part of that. He loved to watch his son compete and work and strive for Garrett's excellence. He was always in the stands watching his daughter Logan compete in softball for the Lady Longhorns. He was so proud of her work ethic and the desire to compete. As a dad, he was proud of his children. As we look at Darrin's life, a couple of thoughts come to my mind. When your life is done in this world, did you leave it a better place because you were there? Darrin did. And finally, to Logan and Garrett, carpe diem. Seize the moment. Your dad would want you to seize that moment and be all you can be and make a positive impact on whoever you meet. God bless the family. And all his friends that are here. As we mourn the life and the loss of Darrin. But you know what? Keep the memories, keep them in the forefront and be all you can be. Thank you. Oh, I would like to introduce his brother, Derek, at this time.
Good morning. Thank you everyone for coming here today. As I listened to Coach Perch talk there about Darrin's wrestling history, obviously Coach Perch, you had a big part of him winning that state championship. Darrin had a big part of that with his athleticism and his heart. I don't know what percentage of that state championship is mine, but there is a percentage of that state championship that is mine. So my parents let us basically tear up our living room. What they let us get away with is shocking now that I'm a parent with kids. So it's a small percentage, but part of that is mine. So today was going to talk about, Darrin worked at APS. APS is a big part of our life. My dad also retired from APS. So that's been, like I said, a big part of our life. As you can see, driving in here today, they just did a fantastic job by putting the trucks out there and the flags that they did. And so we, as the family, are really appreciative of what they've done and setting that up. But this Thursday at APS, for people who don't know, it's the public service company here, electrical company for the state of Arizona. They communicate through radios, right, two-way radios, truck radios there, and then the folks that work there all have a code, right, a number. Darrin's was 2285. If you see the truck that's parked on the edge there and the stickers on the truck, right, you can see his call number in there of 2285. So on Thursday throughout the company, they did his final call off on the radio from APS. So I was going to read that from some of you that work at APS obviously heard that, but I'll read that for the rest of the folks here. So this Derek Pck, APS final call. Darrin Kenneth Prock started his career with APS as a temporary helper at the Childs Irving Hydro Power Plant in the summer of 1985. He spent long hours cleaning flumes, tunnels, and performing basic maintenance at the power plant. He worked his way up to utility ground helper in the Flagstaff area and was awarded a chance at the lineman's apprenticeship in 2001. Darrin excelled in the apprenticeship and traveled the state, earning a reputation as a hard worker, a valued member of the crews. He topped out as a journeyman lineman at the top of his class in 2005 and was named the Apprentice of the Year. He spent 6 months on the systems improvement crew and another year at the Cottonwood Dock before he accepted a position in his hometown of Payson, Arizona, where he would start his young family. Darrin enjoyed working in the Payson area and northern Arizona, especially the challenge of snow restoration, working in the high country. He was knowledgeable and a safe lineman that enjoyed a challenge. Darrin worked hard as a journeyman lineman and impressed his brothers with his great attitude, quirky personality, and quick sense of humor. Everyone loved working with Darrin because he made the long hours of line work enjoyable. In 2016, he had enough seniority to get the Payson Troubleman job. Throughout the years, he became an accomplished outdoorsman and an avid long-distance runner. Darrin competed not only one, but 2 ultra marathons in the wilderness. The first one was the Pine Trail race of 33 miles. 1 year later, he ran the Zane Gray 50-mile race on the Highline Trail. Darrin also served his community as assistant wrestling coach at Payson High School. Throughout all his accomplishments, Darrin remained humble and was steadfast and true friend to all that knew him. Last line is probably the toughest here. With all the line work done, with all his races finished, Darrin can rest easy now. Goodbye, 2285. Thank you. I think up next, one of his running friends, PJ.
this down for short guy status. Wow. Yeah, my name's PJ Pathalski, and I saw where it said on the little placard thing that I was Darrin's friend and running buddy. I can't see anybody out here, but Darrin had an army of running buddies. The Mogollon Rim Runners meant a lot to Darrin. Darrin meant a lot to us. And I've been sitting over here on the left, and everybody's sharing really good, heartfelt laughs. I'm really sorry. This is hard. I did want to try to remember. I had so many things written, typed out, and I kept changing them, and it wasn't going to work. I was just going to have to get up here and do Darrin a real one because he meant that much. And I feel humbled. I only have known Darrin for like 2.5 years or so, and I wanted to say thank you to the family. I feel very undeserving, of being here. How could I know Darrin as well or better than anybody? I mean, there's an entire city here, and I knew him for such a short period of time, but I think it speaks to who Darrin was. You could see what Darrin did to me. And in the last 2 weeks, it's, man, I didn't know. I'm really sorry that I'm up here doing this to everybody here, but I only know how to speak from my heart. And I didn't know what Darrin meant to me. It's really cheesy, you know, you don't know what you got until it's gone. But when it comes to running, you spend a lot of time alone together, running on High Line, running up Mount Award. You become brothers. And with Darrin, it was so easy. I'm 50. Darrin's February 12th. I'm April 1st. Definitely a fool. And I just didn't know what it was going to do to me. And it hurts. And I know it hurts everybody as well. Number one. Second thing the last 2 weeks has done to me is in talking to Jen, she shared a few conversations of what Darrin told her when he kind of first came into contact with me and started making my acquaintance. He, you know, I'm paraphrasing Jen, I can't remember the exact words, but she's like, you know, I met this guy. I'm sure you didn't say cool guy. The bar's really, it's down here for me. But I didn't know that I would have just told you I was Darrin's friend. I would have told you I love spending time with Darrin. I figured out my happiness when I run is tied to Darrin. And now that's gone. But the humbling part is that I meant something to Darrin. That's heavy. It's really heavy. And it's been really hard to put in its proper place the last 2 weeks. And I feel silly being up here talking about running, but I feel like the opportunity I've been given, it speaks to the fact that Darrin just loved it. And I think I'm the person that can probably relate the most to why Darrin chose to do that. Like I said, I've only known Darrin for about 2.5 years, and I can still remember the first time he came to a group run with the Rim Runners, and Darrin and Doug. I don't know Darrin before Doug. So the pictures you've seen with Douglas fir, I was like, oh, I thought it was just Doug. I thought it was a cool name for a dog. No, it's a tree, a Douglas fir. And Darrin was this good-looking, just like etched guy, not the very weak human being you see before you. And the admiration was immediate. But it was the way that Darrin carried himself. He wasn't outspoken. I never stopped talking. Darrin, you had to beg to talk. But the gift was once you got him started, Darrin had a lot to share, and Darrin made every day better. He made every run better. Sorry. Just a great guy. And when we first started running, it was short distances. It was 5Ks, then it was a 5-miler, then it was a 7-miler, and then that's where the addiction starts. You get about double digits in a 10-miler, and all of a sudden, these things that are barriers that you don't You think they exist and you can't go any further. I mean, we heard Coach talk about it. Darrin was a natural athlete, and running was no different. It wasn't an obstacle for Darrin. It wasn't hard for Darrin. He was humble. He would tell you very different, man, do you think I can do this? And I'm like, yeah, you look pretty fit to me, dude. You could probably press me above your shoulders. I think you can do this. And so that's how it started. And then the first thing when we're running maybe like a 10 miler or so, he starts piquing his interest. Can he do further? He's like, hey man, I think he related to me just because we're the same age and everything. And what shoes have you got on? I need a watch. What kind of watch do you recommend? I see you carrying water on your back. What do you recommend? And before you know it, and I'm not making this up, Darrin is talking to a group, and he's standing there, and he's got a black Salomon hydration vest, he's got a Coros watch, and he's got this exact same pairs of shoes, the Salomon Genesis on here, and he's like, I got the PJ starter kit. And I'm like, oh God. I'm like, this guy is the pressure. If he hates any of this, he just spent half of his, it's like a second home loan to buy all this equipment. And when you go on runs, when they get longer, the distance gets longer, and the further you go, the less it becomes about that distance. And the distance changes to becoming more about the time. And so when you go on a 33 miler, you go on a 50 miler, they don't take an hour, they take hours. They take, you can talk in terms of day, they take half a day, they take most of your day. And so you have time, and you have to fill the time with something. And so slowly when it starts with running gear, and then the next conversation's about jobs between two guys. And again, Darrin had an army of running friends. I just was bestowed with the grace. I was bestowed with the opportunity that he chose me to run with more than anybody else. And we just talked about what guys talk about. I don't know what two 50-year-old men going through kind of a midlife crisis. We're both on a different journey, but we're going down this road together, pardon the paraphrase of the pun. And Darrin actually is a really quiet guy, but once he got on the trail, I realized it wasn't my time to talk. It's my time to listen. And Darrin wanted to unpack what he was going through, and I think that's why I am up here, because maybe I knew a little bit of Darrin today. I don't know Darrin from yesterday. And he would talk about work. I know a lot about APS, and I know half of this is probably APS people. I know a lot of your business just from listening. I know a whole lot more about electricity than I ever thought I'd learn. And I'm grateful for it. But the one story that tells you about Darrin and his job and how they paralleled was, he was telling me he went out on a job. Oh, Darrin's phone, by the way, it sounds like a missile silo in the middle of Kansas is going off every time you guys call him for a job. You know what I'm talking? I mean, it's this awful alarm that literally sounds like we're going to World War III every time. But I was like, you got to go to work? And he's like, well, we're about 7 hours away from the car. I'm going to let the next guy take it. And I was like, right answer. But he was telling me one time he went to a job. He had a call, and he went out in the middle of nowhere. And Darrin, this is strangely getting easier. Thank you, sir. He went out in the middle of nowhere, and he came up on an encampment, and I don't know why I think it's on the left, but the important part, he saw a dog tied up by itself, and he saw a little encampment, no humans, and he saw a chicken in a cage. And he said he stopped. He told me this on a run. He was like, happened the day before, the week before. And he was like, I couldn't help it, PJ. I had to give the dog water. I didn't know if it had been left for dead, and he's like, it just didn't feel right. So he got out, and I guess he carried big containers of water on the boom truck, and he gave the dog water. And then he told me he went over to the cage with the chicken, and he opened up the door to the chicken cage to give the chicken water. And he said the chicken started flapping, and it got on him, and it got off him, and he took off after it, and he couldn't pull a Rocky Balboa. He did not get that chicken. He was like, that chicken got away from me. And so he said, went back to the truck, still felt really bad about the dog, and was like, if that dog's still there when I come back from this job and I come back down this road, I'm taking that dog with me. And that's when I knew, I was like, this is a pretty damn good guy. But the important part of that story was, as soon as he told me that, I said, and he came back down the road, and he was like, I'll be damned, there's a guy. So there's a man and his dog. And I was like, did you stop and tell him about the chicken? And he goes, No, didn't tell him about that chicken. Didn't seem important, and he didn't need to know that happened. So then naturally, the rest of my existence now is, did the guy think the chicken was a magician? Did he think the chicken could pick locks? Like, how did that chicken get out? And I thought that was fascinating. I was like, well played, Darrin, well played. But then the runs, they keep getting longer, and he starts telling me more and more about Logan and Garrett. And I know about Logan's softball career. I know, as much as I know about APS, I know about 10 times more about Payson wrestling. Darrin had taught me into coming watching one of Garrett's matches. Felt out of place. He was talking about Coach. I know you were there that day. And it was just my time to listen. And he loved his children. I know I'm echoing some words that have already been said. I would say 50% of our time together was him talking about his children. And he should. He was really, really proud to be a dad. And then the next thing I remember being introduced to him, and I'm going somewhere here, was he was telling me about he's dating some woman named Jen. And Darrin was looking for advice. And if you listen to Darrin talk about dating, it sounded like somebody that was 50 years old that was trying it for the first time. It was kind of sweet. It was kind of concerning. It was awkward. It was awkward. And I've been married to the same woman since almost high school. And Darrin would constantly be like, you know, I went on this date with Jen, and she said this, but I think she meant this. But no, maybe she meant this. And he's like, what do you think? And I'm like, I can't help you, Darrin. You know what, Darrin? I had to swim these waters by myself for 30 years. Congratulations, buddy. You get to go for a swim by yourself on this one. There's no way I'm giving dating advice when I don't know what it's like to do that, Jen. So I gave him zero life lessons with dating. But again, he just needed someone to lean on. He needed someone to listen. And so I listened. And just the fascinating part about Darrin is he was quirky, he was quiet, but if you just went on a long run, it was time. And it was the time that Darrin needed, and that's why the running was so important to Darrin, and that's why Darrin was so important to the rim runners. It's a shared experience. You kind of become a therapist of sorts when you're out there, and it was me and Darrin, and so we were each other's therapist. And that's what being alone in the woods and just listening to nature, and every few minutes his phone blowing up like that, that's what it is about. And he's just an amazing guy. He's somebody that just carved out a section of me, and I didn't know it till he was gone. And I love him. I never told him that I loved the time. I never told him that I loved him. But clearly, the dedication that that man had to just being who he was did something to me. And I don't know what else to share with a city full of people that know him infinitely better than me. But the biggest compliment I can pay Derek Pck is that he did this to me in just a couple of years. And my closing comment, I was with Darrin the day he passed. I was not with him, but I was with him on a run that morning. We were on Highline Trail between Geronimo and Washington Park. And we did all the things that I've just described. We chit-chatted, we told some jokes. We talked about a lot of things, but the thing in the last 2 weeks, I'm like, I know exactly what conversation was the most important to me. And the most important thing that Darrin and I discussed that morning was that we were somewhere in the middle, and Darrin was like, you got plans for July the 4th? And I was like, oh, yes, sir. I have plans for July the 4th. I had kind of figured he'd invited my wife and I last year to a little July 4th get-together, but he told me everything Darrin ever did was super polite, always asked, do you want to, what do you think about this? But he didn't do that day. This is true, I'm not making this up. He said, you've got plans for July the 4th, and then we started talking about the menu, and I was gonna bring some sides. My wife makes a killer quinoa salad dish. And the thing that I thought about over the last 2 weeks was, he picked me. You know, he picked me. I was the guy that he was telling, I need you, I want you there. And he didn't ask. You know, he just told me I was going to be there, and that's the biggest honor that I could have ever been paid. Love you, Darrin. Thank you. Keep it together. Keep it together. I want to introduce Jen.
First, Darrin would make a joke that, am I tall enough to see over this podium? Thank you, PJ. Darrin did love you, and you must have given him some good advice because he was very happy. Hello, everyone. My name is Jen, and I had the honor of being Darrin's girlfriend for the past few years. On behalf of myself and the family, I want to express our deepest gratitude for the overwhelming love and support from this incredible community. Darrin was in the best shape of his life and truly the happiest he had ever been. In fact, during his last week with us, he told several people how great he was feeling. That makes it all the more painful and confusing to come to terms with the fact that we still have no answers as to why or how he was taken from us far too soon. There are so many people to thank. To Ashley and Payson High School, thank you for opening your auditorium to us today and for providing a space for the reception in the gym. Darrin had a lot of good memories at this school. To Bo and APS, we are profoundly touched by the final call that Derek shared at the beginning of this service and the moving tribute of the bucket trucks leading us here. It was emotional and it meant more than words can express. One of my favorite memories of Darrin happened while he was working on something and found an old lead seal. It was one of those stamped ones with initials that APS workers used back in the day. And it just so happened to have belonged to my grandpa, Paul Zinda, who also worked for APS. Without hesitation, Darrin gave that seal to my mom. Just one of those small, thoughtful things he always did. The kind of gesture that made him so special. To Chris and K-Rim, thank you for live streaming the service so those unable to attend in person could still be a part of this day. Darrin loved those streams. You made it easy for us to cheer on Garrett during wrestling and watch Logan crush it on the softball field, no matter where we were. And then there's Starbucks. Thank you for providing nearly 8 gallons of coffee for the reception, which, let's be honest, probably wouldn't have lasted Darrin a full weekend. One of my earliest memories with him was walking into Starbucks. I was just starting to get a sense of his coffee, his love of coffee. And the staff handed him a Christmas card, a personal card signed by everyone. He just looked at me and said, "Don't say a word." So when I got an email from Carissa asking if they could donate the coffee for today, it felt so perfect. So thank you. To every family member and friend, near and far, your love is what's carrying us right now. Darrin would be astonished and deeply humbled by the outpouring of support, and probably a little embarrassed too. Thank you all from the bottom of our hearts. Today we come together to give thanks for the life of someone who left an unforgettable imprint on each of our hearts. We all carry pieces of his story, memories, moments, and small snapshots that remind us just how deeply he was loved and how fully he lived. In just a moment, we will open the mic to anyone who would like to share memories you may have of Darrin. But before we do, I just want to share with you a few more of my own. Darrin and I met just over 3 years ago when I test drove a car he was selling. We ended up driving for over an hour just talking. He showed me his favorite hiking spot in town. We both considered it our first date, and we have been inseparable ever since. Well, I didn't buy the car, but I think I walked away with something far more meaningful. A friend asked me this week, if you knew how things would turn out, would you still go through it all again? My answer came without hesitation, which is absolutely. Even through the pain I'm feeling now, the time I shared with Darrin was the most beautiful chapter of my life. He taught me what real loyalty looks like, what it means to put family first, and how to be mentally tough, especially in the hard moments. Lately, I keep catching myself wondering, what would Darrin do? But the truth is, I already know. I had a front row seat during one of the hardest years of his life, and I watched how he faced it all. He learned to take things one day at a time, to stay grounded in the moment, especially when the future felt too overwhelming to face. And when I got too caught up in the what ifs, he'd nudge me and say, go outside and get some vitamin D. For him, nature was a way to reset, to reconnect. So for now, I'm trying to do the same. I take our dog Doug for a walk and lift my face to the sun and let myself just be, just for a moment. That's what Darrin would have wanted. So to you, Darrin, my love, I am not ready to say goodbye. Not yet. But I do want to say thank you. Thank you for loving me, for giving me a family, even if only for a little while, for always having my back, especially when things were hard, for the laughter, the tiny daily moments, and the inside jokes, for our morning coffee together, solving all the world's problems, as you would say. And most of all, thank you for being my best friend. I love you. I hope we can all carry a little piece of Darrin with us, the way his smile could light up a room, the wisdom he dropped even in the most casual conversations, and the quiet strength he showed no matter what life threw at him. And let's not forget that sharp wit and perfectly timed sarcasm that kept us on our toes and laughing even when we didn't expect it. Thank you all, truly, for being here and for being a part of his story. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we're opening up the mic to anyone who'd like to share a story or memory. But we're going to start with family. And I'd like to invite Darrin's daughter, Logan, and her lifelong friend, Winsong, to come on up.
My dad had many roles in my life, one of which being to teach me how to navigate my way through the world as I got older. He once told me that I would have to work for everything I wanted in life, and that even though it is going to be hard, I have to find comfort in the pain. I think he learned that from wrestling. That's just one example of the person my dad was. He was always honest, no matter how hard the truth was to hear. He was thoughtful and did everything with intention. He was funny and never failed to make me laugh. He was incredibly smart, strong, and if he cared about you, he would make sure you knew. He also taught me that people can change. He changed his entire life around for Garrett and me. Although it was probably the hardest thing he had ever done, he never complained. He is the strongest person I know, and I'm so incredibly proud of the person he became. Although you aren't here to help me work through the highs and lows my future has to offer, you taught me the most important things in life. I love you forever, and I will do my best to live with all the great qualities you have raised me with. Thank you, everyone, for all the support and prayers, and most importantly, thank you, everyone, for loving my dad. Hi, I'm Winsong. I've been best friends with Logan since 6th grade, and I wanted to share a few words about Darrin, not because he was Logan's dad, but because in many ways, he was a dad to me too. Darrin always had a way of making you feel seen, like you mattered, whether he was making jokes to try and get us to laugh, giving us advice even if we thought we didn't need it, or just being there to give us rides. He never made me feel like I was just a kid hanging around the house. He always welcomed me and asked about my life too. Lectured me, sometimes scolded me, but always made me feel like I was a part of the family too. Darrin was a hardworking, dedicated, supportive, and proud father. Anyone who knew him knew Logan and Garrett were his pride and joy. He was one of their loudest cheerleaders, whether it was in sports or just in life. You could tell that he was proud, though. I feel so honored to have been able to experience just a sliver of that, and I thank God for bringing this family into my life. Logan and Garrett, thank you for sharing that with me.
Okay. All right, everyone. So we thought we wouldn't make anyone else walk up on the stage. So we have this here to hopefully make it a little more comfortable. But as I mentioned, we're going to continue with family. And so Danny's going to come up and say a few words. Okay, so it's 11:07. We're going to try to get out of here about 11:30.
I'm too tall, I'm sitting down. Testing. She's talking about running out of out of time. So everybody's looking at there, how long that big old dumb cowboy Okie's gonna speak. But anyway, I can't tell you how much that we love everybody here, and everybody here has touched our heart in one way or the other. And I got a hobby at the house now, and I build crosses in the morning about daylight, because Darrin's always up at daylight. And when I'm out there building crosses by myself in the morning, it gives me an opportunity to talk to Jesus and also talk to Darrin. So I'm going to try to come back to earth and say a few things. Number one is, the slippers that Darrin wore when he was wrestling were this big, and they were wolf's feet. Okay, not bear, you know. And then Derek got this percent of the trophy for wrestling. He should have got probably 3/4 of it, because we had upstairs, downstairs. The boys were upstairs, and Autumn was downstairs, but she always wrestled with them too. But then when Bub, Prock, and Joe Prock come to visit, and we're down below the steps in this cheap little house, and they're up above wrestling, you can imagine trying to concentrate on that deal. But anyway, as these pictures show you, Darrin is a jokester and a prankster. And I got a million stories about that boy. It was a privilege to raise both these boys and this gal here. And even though I thought they were a little trouble, it was worth every bit of it. But and also the dollar bill at the airport, that was on my list. Now I gotta jump over something now. But anyway, Darrin didn't like fishing because he thought that the hook hurt the fish's lips. So we went to Lee's Ferry, and I'd drop him off on the shore, and we'd fish the area, and then we'd move up, drop him offshore. Well, he came back with this stupid old plastic rubber decoy duck. And so I picked him up, and he gets his fishing pole out, and I'm thinking, well, hey, maybe he's trying to do a little fishing. Next thing I turn around, this duck's floating behind us. Well, he gets it back there about 100, maybe 100 yards or so, and he's jerking it and jerking it, you know, playing with it. And these fishermen came by, and I thought they were fishermen, but they were actually duck hunters. And they would, in Arizona, you have to stop your boat and turn your motor off, then you can grab your gun and shoot the duck. So anyway, they would stop, get their guns, point at it, and Darrin would jerk the string, and they'd watch it go up and down, and you'd hear them laugh, and they'd take off. Well, we did that about 3 times, and then we seen some guys come by drinking beer. They pulled over, turned the key, got their shotguns, and shot his duck. So it was half full of water, but he made it come back to the boat, and I told him, you better put that duck in before we get killed. But another thing, yeah, that was Lee's Ferry, wasn't it? All right, the purse, that's the dollar that's you. Also, Darrin had a red purse, and he used to go to Rumsey Park on the street over there, and him and his buddy would hide in the bushes, and he had a little rope on that purse. And every time the high school kids come by, think they're gonna pick up a little extra beer money, and get out and get it, Darrin would jerk it all the way across the road, and they'd take off running from the bushes. So that was pretty funny. And then in Halloween, I can't tell you about Halloween. You can't imagine. So he was in the 5th grade, and I'm working out in my shop, getting my saws ready. We had tree business too, and he came over and he said, "Dad, I need a box." I said, "Well, what kind? How big a box?" He says, "Like one of the refrigerators come in." And I said, "Well, hop in. Let's go down to Sears, see what we got." So I knew the guy at Sears. He cut the whole box out, cardboard box, brought it to the house. Darrin worked all day on it that day. And anyway, he'd taken that box, cut it, put some ribs in it, cut some holes in it, put it on a shoulder strap. And he won first place in the 5th grade going as a giant taco. 5-foot taco. And then he always dressed up Halloween to go to the casino because that was the competition there for dressing during Halloween, and he won that thing several years. He was always happy to get their money. I don't know what was going on there. I guess getting some of my money back, I'm not sure. Hand glider, he was a hand glider, and I could tell you experiences where he almost got killed several times. It sucked him up in the air and it wouldn't let him go in Flagstaff, and he come down barely alive. The thermals got him. But anyway, he come and said, "Hey, you got the keys to Mount Ord?" And I said, "Well, APS got some facilities up there." I said, I said, "When you want to go?" He said, "Now, I'm loaded." I said, "Well, heck, what'd you ask me for?" So anyway, we went up there, worked way to Mount Ord. He got all the wings set up, got harnessed in, took off running, and jumped off the mountain, and everything was going good for about 5 seconds. And he hit the trees, crashed in the trees, and you're talking a slope just like that where we were sitting. But anyway, so I was in shape then, not now. But anyway, I went down there and we got him out of there. So anyway, he comes back and tells me a story. He said, "Well, I finally got off Mount Ord." I said, "How'd it go?" He said, "It was great." He said, "I flew all over Roosevelt Lake, all over those other mountains." And he said, "I thought I'd land in Rye there at that ranch right there at Rye." And they have a big arena there with horses and everything, a lot of area. So anyway, he's flying around and he sees this buddy Jason that he wrestled with. And Darrin said he was about 400 foot up in the air, and he goes, "Jason." And Jason looked around and he said, "Yeah, he circled around, got about another 200 feet and said, 'Jason.'" And Jason was on his horse looking around. And he said, finally, Jason saw the shadow of the glider coming by. And he looked up there and he said, "Darrin Prock, is that you? Man, I thought you was the Lord calling me." But that was a funny story there. And another thing I'd like to say, and I know everybody's getting warm, want to get out of here, but I will say this. Darrin told me one time that a friend of his, I won't mention names, young, died, and they had a funeral. And his brother got up to speak, and he said, "You know, Dad," he says, "one thing that got me," his brother said, "You know what? I've lived him all this time, and I never got to tell him I loved him." And he said, "I'll never forget it, because my brother went to his grave, and I didn't get to tell him I love him." So coming from Darrin, I'm going to say, don't be scared to tell anybody you love them, and don't be scared to tell your children that you love them all the time, and don't be scared to tell them you're proud of them, because everybody likes to hear it. You know, I waited till my dad was 90-something years old where he finally said, "I'm proud of you and I love you." I had to work at it pretty hard. You know, I was a lot like Darrin. And in closing, Darrin did get the Apprentice of the Year, okay? Well, that's practical is out climbing poles, working with crews, and then there's the school work, you know. So he got Apprentice of the Year, and I didn't get Apprentice of the Year, but the guy I cheated off of did. You know, so it's kind of ironic that I left Phoenix. Kenny and I got apprenticeship. We went to Cottonwood, we came here, raised the kids, and Darrin went to Phoenix, went to Cottonwood, and wound up in Payson. And Darrin wound up being a district serviceman with a truck by himself where you travel around on trouble, just like Bo here. And that's the same job I had 40-something years ago. So in closing, I'd like to say usually around Thursdays, Darrin had the tunnel basin route just like me. And real quick, I asked the guy down there, I said, you probably know my son down here. He's the APS guy. He goes, oh, Pretty Boy? Well, just call him Pretty Boy. But anyway, we have the same route, and it's going to be hard for me to not see his truck come down there and visit me, but I'll keep building crosses and talking to him, and we'll get through this as a family. Everybody's tight, and everybody knows each other, and hearts are in the same place. And Darrin was baptized in the Lord Jesus Christ at Church of Christ, and I tell you, we believe in the Lord, and we're going to hang on to Him and try to get through this. Thank you very much for coming. Help me out here. Like the barbershop next.
Well, my name's Angie Pck, and married to Darrin for 19 years, and the mom of Logan and Garrett. I just really want to thank everyone for being here, for the amazing entrance with the trucks, and the outpouring of love and support for Logan and Garrett and the family. And I just thought I would share a little bit about Darrin from my perspective. When Darrin and I met on the Millennium New Year's Eve, I became very aware that he was a very different person than anyone I had ever met. He had red toenail polish on his toes, barely there, just wearing off at the tips. And I thought, what the heck, this big, strong, manly man, what is going on? So he told me, oh yeah, my sister's in Autumn, is in cosmetology school, and she needed someone to practice on, so. And he didn't bother to take it off because he really didn't care who saw it. He did it for his sister. And that made such an impression. He's a loyal family man. He's an amazing dad. And he had an adventurous spirit, and he made an impression on everyone, and a lifelong impression. We spent about half of our lives together, which is crazy it's been that long. Together, maybe not together, but as friends and as co-parents, and being able to focus our energies on helping Logan and Garrett to reach their potentials and be happy and be there for them no matter what it takes. I had the practical joke thing also, Dennis, the whole thing with the purse, it was queued up. So I will say that he did pass that down to Garrett. So Garrett and his buddies hid out at Green Valley Park with an iPhone. You got to upgrade. And so an iPhone on a string, just hiding in the bushes, laughing hysterically, reeling it in. So he did pass it down. It kept going. And I would challenge anyone to do a better job at Elf on the Shelf every Christmas than Darrin did. I mean, one year, he took fishing line and he strung it from the dining room table all up over the lights, and the kids were really into Spider-Man. So Spider-Man was featured in the web shooting the elf, capturing her, and the kids came out and they just couldn't believe it. And there were so many other things with that. When the kids were little, iPads and all of that were coming around, and we were bound and determined, they're not going to sit in front of an iPad all the time. We're going to get them out doing stuff. And so he would we would develop these obstacle courses. And I mean, a rope hanging from the tree, our kids could climb all the way to the top of that. A balance beam, a Rube Goldberg he taught Garrett, and all of these just creative things that he just came up with. And, you know, that's one of the many ways he would show his love to Logan and Garrett, was through these activities and this creativeness, and being there to teach them wrestling moves when they're like 3. And oh, here's another one. So I'm not sure how many people here were ever victims to the Green Valley Park. If you're walking around Green Valley Park, Garrett would be up at or Darrin would be up at the top of the house, and he'd spot you, and he'd go grab the mirror from our bedroom and focus the sunlight and, you know, focus it, and the person's looking around like, what's going on? And finally they travel it up, and we get a text or a phone call, and he's like, ah. So just, you know, things to take people off guard, and, you know, being so dedicated to his passions, you know, with wrestling and hot shots, and being a wonderful lineman, and being an amazing father to the kids, and carrying on the wrestling legacy with planning to be one of the high school coaches this year with Clifford and Chris Harold, and had so much in front of him, so many people that still continue to need him. And, you know, I woke up the day after this happened, and I was immediately, his face was there. And it was that smile that he gets on his face when he's proud of Logan and Garrett. And there's that beautiful smile with a lot going on behind his eyes. He's thinking about a million things, but he's looking at you, and he's so proud. His eyes would well up with tears every time he'd talk about Logan and Garrett and something they accomplished. And when I saw his face, I immediately had this feeling of just a feeling that, hey, you know what? I'm going to be there with them. And I'm going to be there when Logan's a senior next year, and when Garrett's wrestling, and when they reach those milestones in their lives, and when they're having those hard moments where no one could say what he could say the way he could say it to help them through whatever it was. And I just asked him, please just help, you know, me as a mom be there. And he will be. And I do believe God will be there with us. And thank you all for all the support. And it just means the world. So thank you.
I'm going to give this a try. I might need that chair. So Darrin and I went to high school together. We grew up together. We're linemen together. So in high school, we had a building trades class. I think it was Darrin's favorite class. And Mr. Wagner was the teacher. And so you take a little bus full of tools and about 10 kids, and you go work on construction projects or pour a slab of concrete or something. And so one morning, Mr. Wagner comes in and he says, boys, no more chewing tobacco. You chew tobacco in my class, you're going to get me in trouble. So we're kind of bummed out, you know, and so we pull into Circle K before we head to our job, and Darrin jumps back on the bus. He's got a big box of cigars. So we fire up these cigars, and we're puffing away, and we're all getting sick, and Mr. Wagner jumps back on the bus. Boys, what the hell are you doing? Darrin says, you said just chewing tobacco. You didn't say anything about cigars. So anyway, that was the kind of humor that Darrin liked. We worked together for years and years and got real close. And Darrin we could irritate each other. As much as we loved each other, we could irritate the crap out of each other. And when I got a trouble job, Darrin was already a troubleman. We'd always kind of wanted these jobs. So I'm kind of excited about the job. And so first day I'm driving around town and I see Darrin across the intersection. I wave and smile, and he waves and smiles back. And lunchtime I see him and I wave and I smile, and he kind of gives me a half wave. And third one I waved that afternoon, and he just gave me a look, and I thought, okay, I got him. So he pulls back into the yard, and he pulls up to my truck, and he says, would you stop waving at me every 20 minutes? You look like Forrest Gump over here. But that was the quirky guy that Darrin was. As much as he loved you, he was going to straighten you out. Just one more. Darrin and I served our apprenticeships in separate places, and Darrin went to work at APS, and my apprenticeship just happened to end 6 months before him. We're pretty much the same age, and we went to a job out in Phoenix. I came to work for APS, and Darrin was still an apprentice, and the linemen give the apprentices a hard time, give them a lot of grief. We haze them. It's a lot. So I'm a brand new lineman. I thought, I'll give Darrin a try here. He's still an apprentice, and I knew I was going to lose the fight. So I hazed him a little bit, and the next thing I know, I'm on the ground. My arms are tied up like a pretzel. My face is in the dirt, and I'm getting the crap kicked out of me. And that was the last time I hazed Darrin. But we had a great time working together, and I'm really lucky that I got to spend so much time with him. And thank you.
I got to lower that after Bo, but you know, there's a lot of great stories, and I see all these people that were a part of them. Is that echoing? Is that all right? I was there for the dollar trick in LAX, and I was there for the purse trick on McLean and Airport. Got real scary when the cops pulled up, but there's plenty of woods there to get away. I was there. One story didn't get told, and I think Bub may have been the target of this one, but he had a blowgun for a little while. And it was kind of typical of Darrin, and we went to there was a high school party, and we just really weren't into the parties, but there was plenty of prank opportunities, and we went and hid in the woods, and Darrin shot blowgun BBs. I think Bub maybe got hit by a few of them, and then he had a big spotlight that he shined on everybody, make everybody think it was the sheriff's, and everybody went running, hit the barbed wire fence and all that. And I was there in a lot of these stories. Danny, I drove his truck from Mount Ord, and he didn't crash that time, but I was there when it was Gordon that thought the Lord was calling to him, and but he landed safely in that field. And man, I got a lot of great stories. I wish I could tell them all. I know we got to go, but Darrin was close our whole lives, and he struggled, for a little while, and just recently, man, he was doing so great, and we were so excited to go. Yeah, sorry. We were really excited to coach Garrett, and these boys are such a great group of kids. We had all these plans, and we were going to meet, Wednesday and Monday and do this, but we're really going to miss him. And man, we had so many great things, but I know we'll be able to do a lot of things in his memory, and he left us some ideas that we're going to be able to work with and implement in the team. And but yeah, we all love Darrin, and man, there's just a million great stories, but I won't keep talking. But I know he loved Garrett and Logan and everybody here. But thank you, guys.
All right, thank you, everyone. That concludes the service. As I mentioned, we have some Starbucks coffee and refreshments in the gym. So please head over there and continue to share all the great stories. Thank you so much.